Hello everyone and welcome to the AI Research Roundup. I'm your host Alex. Today we're looking at a paper tackling a key challenge in AI, complex mathematical reasoning. The paper is titled DEPMATH-103Ka, Large-Scale Challenging, Decontaminated, and Verifiable Mathematical Dataset for Advancing Reasoning. The core idea is a new large-scale dataset, DeepMath-103K, packed with about 103,000 really tough math problems. It's specifically designed to train advanced AI reasoning models, especially using reinforcement learning, because current datasets often lack the necessary difficulty or verifiable answers needed for that kind of training. So yeah, this first figure really highlights the key points. The chart on the left compares the difficulty levels. You can see DeepMath-103K has a lot more of those really tough problems, the darker green and reddish shaded bars compared to other datasets shown. And the chart on the right shows the impact this has on performance. The red parts on top of those bars represent the accuracy gains. You know, how much better models get on tough benchmarks like Math 500 and A when trained using DeepMath-103K for both standard fine-tuning and reinforcement learning methods. It clearly shows a substantial improvement. Okay, so building on that, this next figure gives us a concrete example of what a single data point in DeepMath-103K actually looks like. You can see it includes the question itself, which looks pretty complex, a clear final answer which is crucial for that verifiability we talked about, a difficulty score. This one's an 8, so quite challenging, and a topic classification. What's really interesting here, though, are the multiple solutions provided. R1 solution, 1, 2, and 3. Having these different ways to reach the answer is super valuable for training more robust models. Okay, and speaking of how they built this dataset, this next figure really shows why one particular step was so important. This bar chart illustrates the contamination rates. Basically, how much overlap there was between the raw data sources they started with and common benchmark datasets before they did any cleaning. Look at those numbers. Over 90% for things like OmniMath, AIM, and AMC, and over 76% for Math 500. This really underlines the need for that rigorous decontamination process they mentioned, making sure the final DeepMath-103K dataset is actually useful for fair evaluation. And beyond just cleaning the data and ensuring difficulty, this next figure, figure 3, gives us a look at the types of math problems included. It's a kind of hierarchical pie chart showing the topic breakdown. You can see it covers a really wide range, big sections for algebra and calculus, but also substantial parts for pre-calculus, geometry, number theory, discrete mathematics, and applied mathematics like probability and statistics. This broad topical diversity is another key aspect, aiming to help models develop more generalizable reasoning skills. Okay, so we've seen the topic breakdown. Now this next figure, figure 5, actually shows us the whole pipeline, how they got to the final dataset. It visualizes the different stages of filtering. They started with a huge raw pool, nearly 2.9 million problems, from sources like MMIQC and WebInst-Sub. Then, applying that decontamination we talked about, which removed about 199,000 problems, followed by difficulty filtering, keeping only the harder ones, and finally, ensuring answers were verifiable, which filtered out almost 1 million more. This leaves 95,000 core problems, which they then supplemented to get the final 103K set. Okay, so following on from that pipeline we just saw, this next chart, figure 6, helps explain why they picked those specific starting sources, like MMIQC and WebInstruct-Sub. This shows the difficulty distribution within those potential source datasets. You can clearly see how MMIQC and WebInstruct-Sub, the last two bars, just have a massive volume of problems, especially those higher difficulty ones, levels 5 through 9, the darker green and reddish sections, compared to the other options they considered. This really justifies their selection for building that challenging dataset. Right, and speaking of that contamination we mentioned earlier, this table, Table 1, gives us a concrete look at what they actually found during that decontamination process. It shows examples comparing questions from the raw data pool on the left, with questions from established benchmarks like AIM or Math, 500 on the right. You can see with the highlighted text, even though the wording is different, the core mathematical problem is essentially the same, or very, very similar. This really drives home why that semantic decontamination step, looking for meaning overlap, was so vital. So, seeing those specific examples really underscores the effort behind DeepMath-103K. I think the key takeaway here is the combination of scale with really rigorous quality control, especially that decontamination and focus on genuinely hard problems. Having this kind of robust benchmark is vital for truly advancing AI's mathematical reasoning capabilities. Well, that's all we have time for on this episode. Thanks for joining us on the AI Research Roundup. I'm your host, Alex.